Welcome to Biggest Spoilers, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
A house divided, deception and destiny at the Quartermaine mansion. The air in the Quartermaine drawing room was thick with the scent of old money and older resentments. It was a day of supposed unity, a fragile ceasefire in the family's perpetual war, called for the baptism of baby Leo. The room, a museum of their triumphs and failures, was filled with the uneasy chatter of relatives who knew better than to trust the temporary peace. Violet, in her grandmother Brooke Lynn's arms, fussed slightly, as if sensing the tectonic plates of family loyalty shifting deep beneath the opulent Persian rug. At the center of it all, though she would never admit to needing it, was Tracy Quartermaine. She stood by the marble fireplace, her posture as rigid as the family portraits lining the walls. Her eyes, sharp and missing nothing, scanned the room. There was Drew, trying to look optimistic, Ned, the steady patriarch in waiting, Brooke Lynn, juggling the roles of mother and savvy businesswoman, and a scattering of others whose allegiances were as fluid as the stock market. Today was about blessing a child with holy water, but Tracy felt a more earthly storm brewing. It was a familiar itch, a Quartermaine intuition that something was profoundly, expensively wrong. The recent, shocking revelation of their disinheritance from Monica's estate had left a vacuum, a silent, screaming question mark that hung over every interaction. Monica, the matriarch, the heart of the family for so long, had seemingly cut them all out. The official will, the one read by the stone-faced lawyer, had left the entirety of her vast fortune, the estate, the stocks, the legacy, to a single, bewildering beneficiary, her grandson, Jason Morgan. It was a move so brutal, so final, that it had left the family reeling in a mixture of grief and furious disbelief. Jason, the stoic, often absent son, was now the sole heir to the Quartermaine empire. The injustice of it was a poison they were all forced to swallow. But Tracy Quartermaine was not a woman who swallowed poison lightly. She was a purveyor of it. The official story felt tidy. Too tidy. Monica, for all her flaws, was a Quartermaine to her bones. She understood legacy, bloodlines, the sacred duty of perpetuating the dynasty. To leave them all with nothing? It didn't comport with the woman Tracy had known, fought with, and, in her own acerbic way, loved for decades. There had to be another layer, a hidden codicil, a real will that explained this madness. Monica would never be so careless. She would never leave such a mess. A mother's whisper and a sleuth's resolve. The ceremony was a blur of priestly words and holy water. As Leo was anointed, Tracy's mind was not on salvation but on discovery. Her eyes kept drifting to the old mansion itself, a labyrinth of secrets. She remembered Monica in her final days, frail but with a fire still burning in her eyes. She'd said strange things, things that had seemed like the ramblings of a medication-addled mind. It's all in the music, Tracy. The music box. Edward's favorite. At the time, Tracy had dismissed it, patting her sister-in-law's hand and attributing it to painkillers. Now, the words echoed with new, sinister meaning. Later, as the family gathered for a reception that was more wake than celebration, the tension was palpable. Congratulatory words about Leo were layered with subtext about the inheritance. "It's a fresh start," Drew said to Brooke Lynn, trying to sound encouraging. "We'll all be fine. We have each other." "Will we?" Brooke Lynn replied, her voice low, her gaze drifting to where Jason stood, a silent, uncomfortable island in a sea of his own family's resentment. "Because it's hard to build a future when someone else owns the ground beneath your feet." Ned, ever the diplomat, tried to pour oil on the troubled waters. "Let's not do this today. Today is for Leo. We'll find a way forward, as a family." But Tracy was no longer listening. The phrase music box was a siren's call in her mind. Edward's favorite. She pictured the gaudy, antique piece that had sat for years on the mantelpiece in his old study, now a mostly forgotten relic. It was a hideous thing, all ornate brass and tinkling bells, playing a warped version of Greensleeves. Edward had loved it, much to everyone's annoyance. Could it be? Was it possible Monica had used that sentimental, overlooked object as her hiding place? Feigning a headache, a performance worthy of an Academy Award, Tracy excused herself from the gathering. The noise is simply too much, she declared, pressing the back of her hand to her forehead. I need to lie down. No one questioned her. They were used to Tracy's dramatics. She didn't go to her room. She slipped into Edward's old study, the room frozen in time, dust motes dancing in the slivers of light cutting through the heavy velvet curtains. And there it was, the music box, covered in a fine layer of dust. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic, hopeful rhythm. With trembling, aged fingers, she picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. She turned it over, examining the intricate base. There was a barely perceptible seam. She pressed, she twisted, she pried, and with a soft, definitive click, a hidden compartment sprang open. Inside, nestled against the faded red velvet, was not a single document, but a small, sealed manila envelope. Her name was written on the front in Monica's elegant, looping script. For Tracy. For when they all stopped listening. For a moment, Tracy couldn't breathe. This was it. The truth. She tore the envelope open with an urgency that betrayed her cool exterior. Inside were several pages, a newer, later will, and a handwritten letter. Her eyes, laser-focused, devoured the words on the legal document first. And what she read made the blood drain from her face, her knees growing weak. She staggered to Edward's old leather chair, the weight of the revelation forcing her down. The will was clear, precise, and utterly devastating. It revoked the previous will that named Jason as sole heir. But it did not reinstate the family. No. The beneficiary of this new, authentic last testament was not Jason, not Drew, not Ned, not any of the blood Quartermains. It was Danny Morgan. Monica had left everything, the house, the fortune, the entire Quartermain legacy, to her young great-grandson, Jason's son with Sam McCall. And he was to be held in a protected trust, with very specific, unchangeable conditions. Tracy's mind raced, connecting the dots with the speed of a lifelong corporate raider. Danny. A child. This wasn't just a snub, it was a strategic, long-game masterstroke. But why? The answer, the chilling, brilliant, infuriating reason, was in the personal letter Monica had left for her. Tracy, her hands shaking now, lifted the handwritten pages and began to read. My dearest Tracy. If you are reading this, then you have done what I knew only you could do, you saw through the charade. You were always the smartest of us, the most tenacious. I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary. The first will, the one that names Jason, is a shield. A bluff designed to draw fire and reveal true intentions. I knew the vultures would circle the moment I was gone, but I needed to see who would circle Jason, and why. Tracy's breath hitched. A bluff. Monica had faked her own final will to act as a lightning rod. The truth is, I am leaving our family in peril. There is a threat, Tracy, one that I have been too weary and too ill to fight. A corporate predator, someone with intimate knowledge of our weaknesses, has been slowly, silently maneuvering to take everything Edward and Lila built. They have allies within our own walls, people who have been promised a bigger piece of a smaller, controlled pie. I don't know who all of them are, but I know they are there. The pieces began to fall into a terrifying mosaic. The strange business decisions, the leaked information, the feeling of being one step behind for years, it wasn't just bad luck. It was a coordinated attack. I cannot leave the company or the estate to any of the adults. They are either the target, complicit, or too trusting. Jason is strong, but he is a blunt instrument in a game of subtle knives. Leaving it to him directly would make him a permanent target, and he would likely just give it away or sell it off, dismantling our legacy in the name of simplicity. Drew is too honorable, Ned too bound by tradition. They would walk into the trap with their eyes wide open. Monica's voice, through her script, was clear and ruthless. She was playing chess from beyond the grave. So, I am leaving it to Danny. A child is a blank slate, an unpredictable variable. The trust is ironclad. It cannot be broken, sold, or transferred until he turns 25. The company must be run by a board of trustees, you, Tracy, as the lead, along with Ned and Drew. You will be the stewards, the protectors. You will have the power to manage the assets, to fight the battles, to root out the corruption, without any single person being able to claim ownership and be destroyed by it. You will have a decade and a half to secure our future, to teach Danny what it means to be a Quartermain, and to ensure that when he inherits, what he receives is stronger and safer than what I left behind. Tracy looked up, her vision blurring with unshed tears. It was a breathtakingly audacious plan. Monica hadn't disinherited them, she had conscripted them. She had entrusted the survival of the Quartermain name not to a person, but to an idea, protected by the one person she knew was cunning and tough enough to see it through, Tracy herself. I am giving you the keys to the kingdom, my dear, difficult sister. Not to own, but to defend. Use your sharp tongue, your brilliant mind, your magnificent, unapologetic ruthlessness. Save our family. And know that I trusted you, above all others, to do what must be done. With love and absolute faith. Monica. Tracy sat in the silent study for a long time, the letter held gently in her lap. The anger, the feelings of betrayal, melted away, replaced by a profound, terrifying sense of purpose. Monica had seen her, truly seen her, not as a villainess, but as the family's last, best hope. She felt a weight settle on her shoulders, heavier than any stock portfolio or real estate deed. It was the weight of a legacy. Encouraging words, the general's new battle plan. When Tracy emerged from the study, she was a woman transformed. The faint headache was gone, replaced by a steely glint in her eyes and a new, unnerving calm. The family was still milling about, the post-baptism gloom having firmly set in. Everyone, Tracy announced, her voice cutting through the murmur. In the library. Now. And someone find Jason. This concerns him, too. There was a grumble of protest, but decades of conditioning to obey a Quartermain matriarch's command took over. They filed into the library, a room that had witnessed countless family showdowns. Jason arrived last, his expression unreadable, but his presence immediately shifting the room's energy. What's this about, Tracy? Ned asked, his voice weary. Haven't we had enough drama for one day? The drama, as you call it, has just begun, Tracy replied, holding up the manila envelope. I have just found Monica's true last will and testament. The one read by the lawyer was a decoy. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Eyes widened. Hope, cautious and fragile, flickered on some faces. A decoy? Drew asked. Why? Because Monica was smarter than all of us, Tracy said, her gaze sweeping over them. She knew this family was under a sophisticated, silent attack. She knew there were people, perhaps even in this very room, who are working with an outside force to dismantle and acquire everything the Quartermains have built. The accusation hung in the air, thick and poisonous. People looked at one another with new, suspicious eyes. The real will name's a new heir, Tracy continued, pausing for maximum effect. Monica has left the entire estate, in an unbreakable trust, to her great-grandson, Danny Morgan. The room exploded. Danny? A child? Brooklyn exclaimed. That's insane, someone else cried out. Jason, who had been silent, stepped forward. His jaw was tight. No. I won't allow it. That's too much weight, too much danger, to put on a kid. I won't accept it. You don't have a choice, Jason, Tracy said, her voice firm but not unkind. She was following Monica's script, but she made the words her own. This isn't about what you, or I, or any of us want. This is about survival. Monica didn't do this to punish us. She did it to save us. She then began to deliver the encouraging words, the battle cry Monica had entrusted her with. Listen to me, all of you, she commanded, her voice rising. Monica didn't see a family of failures. She saw a family with unique strengths. She saw Jason, whose integrity and strength are a bulwark against any direct assault. She saw Drew, whose honor and resilience can inspire loyalty and rebuild what's broken. She saw Ned, whose steady hand and deep knowledge of our history can guide us. She saw Brooklyn, whose fresh eyes and fierce love for her own children represent the very future we're fighting for. She looked at each of them as she spoke, her words bestowing a sense of purpose they hadn't felt in years. She left it to Danny not to cut us out, but to force us to work together. The trust mandates that Ned, Drew, and I act as a board of trustees. We will run the company. We will protect the assets. We will fight this enemy, whoever they are. We are not disinherited, we are anointed. We are the guardians of this legacy. For the first time in a long time, we are all on the same side, with a common goal, to ensure that when Danny comes of age, he inherits an empire that is stronger, safer, and more secure than ever before. The room was silent, processing her words. The anger was receding, replaced by a dawning sense of resolve. Drew nodded slowly, a soldier accepting a mission. Ned's shoulders straightened, the weight of responsibility fitting him like an old, familiar coat. Even Jason, though still conflicted, saw the brutal logic in it. It protected his son in the most ironclad way possible, by making his inheritance a collective responsibility. We are Quartermains, Tracy finished, her voice dropping to a passionate whisper. We do not roll over. We do not surrender. We fight. And for the first time, we know exactly what, and who, we are fighting for. Our future. Danny's future. Leo and Violet's future. Let's stop feeling sorry for ourselves and start acting like the dynasty we are. It was a speech that only Tracy could give, acerbic, strategic, and unexpectedly inspiring. In that moment, the family was no longer a collection of squabbling individuals. They were a unit. They had a cause. Angry threats, the serpent's hiss. But unity is a fragile thing, and secrets have a way of festering. The newfound solidarity, while powerful, was based on a truth Tracy had only partially revealed. She had shared the beneficiary and the board structure, but she had kept one critical piece of Monica's letter to herself, the explicit warning that the enemy had allies within our own walls. This omission was a time bomb, and it detonated sooner than she could have imagined. A few days later, Tracy was in the corporate office at ELQ, already deep in financial audits, looking for the anomalies Monica had warned her about. She thought she was alone. But she was wrong. From the shadows of the corner office, a figure emerged. It was one of them. A face she saw at Christmas dinners, a voice that had offered condolences at Monica's funeral. The betrayal was so intimate it took Tracy's breath away. A child, Tracy, the figure said, their voice a low, venomous hiss, all pretense of family affection gone. You really expect us to believe that? And to believe that you, of all people, are suddenly the selfless guardian of the Quartermain fortune? Tracy spun around, her heart in her throat, but she masked her shock with icy disdain. What are you doing here? The board doesn't meet until tomorrow. I'm here to give you a chance, the traitor said, stepping into the light. Their eyes were cold, their smile a thin, cruel line. A chance to be sensible. This little fantasy of Monica's, this trust you've concocted, it ends now. Tracy stood her ground. It's not a fantasy. It's Monica's legal, binding will. And it's ironclad. There's nothing you can do. Oh, I think there is, the relative sneered, moving closer, invading her space. The friendly mask was completely off, revealing the ruthless predator beneath. You always were a stubborn old mule. But even mules can be broken. Do you really think we've come this far, been this patient, to be thwarted by a dead woman's sentimentality and your sudden attack of conscience? The use of we confirmed Monica's worst fear. This was not a lone wolf. What do you want? Tracy demanded, her voice steady despite the fear coiling in her stomach. I want you to see reason, the traitor said, their voice dropping to a menacing whisper. The deal is this, you come forward and declare that will a forgery. You use that sharp tongue of yours to convince the family it's a pathetic, greedy ploy you concocted. In the chaos, the original will, Jason's will stand. And Jason, being the noble fool he is, will be persuaded to sign everything over to a new corporate structure. Our structure. And if I refuse? Tracy asked, her chin held high. The relative's face hardened into a mask of pure malice. Then the gloves come off. This isn't a corporate raid anymore, Tracy. This is a war. And you are tragically accident-prone. That car of yours has such faulty brakes. Or those stairs at the mansion are so steep. And poor, sweet little Danny, the world is such a dangerous place for a child. So many diseases. So many unpredictable accidents on the playground. The threats were not vague. They were direct, personal, and vile. They were threatening her life, and the life of an innocent child. Tracy's blood ran cold, but her resolve turned to titanium. This was the enemy Monica had seen in the shadows. This was the fight. You listen to me, you viper, Tracy spat, her eyes blazing with a fury that made the traitor take a half step back. You can threaten me all you want. I have been threatened by experts. But you threaten that boy, you so much as look at him sideways, and you will learn what true ruthlessness really is. Monica's will stands. I am the trustee of this legacy, and I will burn ELQ to the ground and salt the earth before I let a snake like you steal it. She took a step forward, her small frame radiating an immense, terrifying power. You think you know me? You have no idea. The game is on. And I promise you this, I will not rest until I have exposed you, destroyed you, and everyone you work with. Now get out of my office. The traitor, momentarily cowed by her ferocity, retreated, but their eyes promised retaliation. You've made a fatal mistake, Tracy. No, Tracy whispered to the empty room after they had gone, the echo of Monica's faith giving her strength. You made the mistake when you threatened my family. The baptism was over. The words of encouragement had been spoken, uniting the family for the battle ahead. But the angry threats had now been laid bare, turning a cold corporate war into a deeply personal, bloody feud for the very soul of the Quartermain name. And at the center of it all stood Tracy, the unexpected general, ready to defend her legacy to her last, dying breath. The real war for General Hospital's most powerful dynasty had just begun. General Hospital spoilers update for the week October 27th to 31st reveals that Nathan West will deliver a fierce trouble while Tracy Quartermain gets drunk. Drew Kane will also face a stumbling block, so some excitement is on the way in Port Charles. At the Quartermain manse, Laura Collins will go up against Drew and try to show Veronica Ronnie Bard that he really is the terrible person everyone makes him out to be. Still, Ronnie seems to be getting fed up with her new life in Port Charles and may soon be eager to go back to her former bone. Since Ronnie will make a jaw-dropping advertisement, she might confirm that she's moving forward with dealing the Quartermain manse. The question is, will Ronnie vend it to Drew? Drew could indeed end up with the house if he makes Ronnie an offer she can't refuse. Although Drew will latterly face a stumbling block of some kind, that may just be a temporary challenge to conquer. Of course, it's possible that stumbling block will be about trying to get Willow Tate out of captivity, since that's high on Drew's list of precedences, too. As for Nina Reeves, she'll be willing to get down in the slush for Willow's sake. We'll see Nina take drastic action and try to make sure Willow's a free woman again. Nathan West could end up troubled over Nina's jest. Or perhaps it'll be Britt Westbourne who he has to keep in line. It's indeed possible Nathan has another Jack Brennan run in brewing, but we know Nathan will deliver a fierce trouble to someone in the coming occurrences. Jason Morgan will also get into an argument with Carly Spencer, so it may not take him long to realize she's conniving some Parlis Brennan vengeance. Next, let's bandy Curtis Ashford, since he'll find out commodity that leaves him spinning out. Will Jordan Ashford tell Curtis about the gestation mystification pieces she put together regarding Portia Robinson? Curtis and Isaiah Gannon will ultimately have a heated battle while Portia reaches out to Ava Jerome for backing. Britt will also buffet with Elizabeth Baldwin on the job, so some tense scenes are on the way. Back with Jason, he'll manage to leave Britt taken suddenly. Will that involve a nice surprise or an unwelcome one rather? Other GH spoilers say Tracy will throw back plenitude of booze, so she'll get drunk to forget her problems. Cody Bell will also go looking for legal guidance and maybe hope he can help Tracy gain control of the Q mansion. Eventually, Brennan will make a pitch right around the time Britt gets some fresh orders to follow. Will Britt strike a new deal with Brennan, one that could her out of Steinmauer and maybe put her back in Professor Henry Hank Dalton's route? General Hospital spoilers say Britt may get some tricky news and have to make some updates to her cover-up strategy along the way when it comes to the secrets she's still keeping.